Hail to the king, baby.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, it's Michael B. And after a very long weekend where we had no Super Game Room dudes, no 19K Fox, I decided to bring a little bit of fun back. I was itching. I wanted to get back on YouTube and do some fun stuff for you. So tonight we're having a Home Arcade Pinball State of the Union address, which is the stupidest name I've ever come up for a show. But I just thought it was time. We really got some great people here from the Home Arcade Pinball space to talk about everything that's going on. Home Arcade Pinball is something that has changed drastically over the scope of even the last 4 years, going from Arcade 1-Up to AtGames to so many different options today. It's very interesting, especially on the licensing side now, because we just got an update from Zen Studios on how they're changing, and they've really been the key to the whole Home Arcade Pinball space for a number of years. So their new update and new changes make things even murkier than they were before, and I just thought it'd be fun to get some great minds in here to talk about it. It's Monday. You know what that means. It's time for another episode of Chill and Chat with Michael B. with some great guests. I'm excited to talk to you all tonight. Let's rock and roll. So you're going to have to excuse me. My headphones, I think I'm going to have to replace them. They keep going in and out on one ear, and it's driving me absolutely nuts. So with that disclaimer out of the way, I want to say hello to my guests. So first up, we've got a familiar face to the show, our buddy Kaotic BPR. Not really that familiar because of that mustache. I'm going to have a hard time adjusting to that. Nothing grew back in yet, Brian. It's been a week, brother.
It's going a little slow.
Stay away from public libraries. We've also got first time on the show, very excited to collaborate with this young man, great pinball creator, especially on the AtGames side. Retro Tech X, thank you so much for being here tonight, man. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me. It's a great opportunity for me, and just you were one of the first creators that I ever found in this space, so it was good to see you.
Oh, man. Wow.
I'm glad to be on here.
Thank you for not having a weird mustache.
No, thanks. That's not me.
And last but not least, we've got Billy Woods Mods. Billy, I think you joined me one time before for like a community show, but this is the first time you've been an invited guest. Very excited to have you on, and great timing because you just released an awesome video for your Alice Goes to Wonderland pinball machine this morning. So great timing. We're going to talk about that a little later tonight. I think these are all the godfathers right now of pinball on YouTube. I don't know if that's the right term, or you're some of my favorite people to watch to get pinball content. Let's just say that.
I'll accept that comment.
We got all the facial hairstyles covered. So
we got the gambit. We got the gambit. Of course, just despite 19K Fox, I have to say hello to the first 11 comments. JJ, I think it's unofficially official. Zen Pinballs and AtGames have had a breakup. I'm not so sure about that. We'll talk about that tonight. Of course, we got our buddy Dan in St. Louis. Hi, Michael B. John Fritz is here. Always a pleasure to see you, John Fritz. Good evening, everybody. Porter Dream is here. Hello, good people of the YouTube arcade space. Novasonic's here. It's him. It's Michael M. Hey, everyone. It was weird not having Super Game Room dudes or 19K Fox. this past weekend. Looking forward to the stream. Mike, I don't know why you had to say my name twice. I am Rappy is here, who I gave some information on how to buy a Wonderland Amusements in Canada earlier on my Discord. I got so high last night, I hallucinated Mike B on the Corner Cage show. Me too, brother. I don't know what was up with that. Josh Indy first, and who else we got? We got my buddy Steve Sale here. After seeing you on Corner Cage last night, I had to ask a friend if hell froze over. Thumper Squid says, hello, wonderful gamers. And RTX Pinball says, hey-oh. Hey, all. I thought said, hey-oh. I also need glasses, apparently. Lord Skylar says hello. And I think that's 11. We'll say hello to everybody else as the night goes on. But we got a lot to talk about tonight. This is going to be a pretty long show. Hopefully not too long. I don't know how long I told you I'd need you for, but there's a lot to talk about. And I really want to start it off where I'm a little bit confused. And Troy, I've seen some of your comments too. I think you're a little bit confused. No one really knows what's going on right now between AtGames and Zen Studios. It's very murky, and Zen made it a lot more murky the other day because they did a pretty big announcement where they announced a lot of changes were going to be coming to their platforms. No longer going to be supporting certain consoles, no longer going to be supporting certain platforms, and changing some platforms. And there was really no clarification on what the relationship or situation is like with AtGames, which, begs a lot of questions. So the first thing I want to go back to is I want to talk about a product that I think RetroTech X, you've got in the background there behind you. And this is where, for me, the confusion really started. And that is, hold on one second. This mega screen that I got has just ruined everything, guys. I got to go back to 2 screens or something, which I don't really want to do, but it's this AtGames Legends Pinball HDP, which was super exciting from AtGames at the time. They were coming out with a new HD pinball, which was going to have the same brain as the Legends Pinball 4K. And then the immediate reason everybody said that's awesome is because a lot of Legends Pinball HD owners had felt jilted. I don't know if jilted's a real word or if it's one I just created, but they felt slighted that they could not get Zen games on their original Legends HD pinballs. And this was finally an opportunity to buy a lower price version or HD pinball that would hopefully have Zen. And in the initial announcements and facts, AtGames themselves said, Zen will eventually come to this. But we're now, I think, 6 months after the launch, and there's absolutely no sign of Zen. So I did a video like a couple months ago saying, what is going on here? I'll start with you, Kaotic. What do you think the holdup is or the situation with Zen Studios and the AtGames Legends HDP?
Well, I kind of think it harkens back to what originally got them in trouble or in hot water with Zen in the first place, and that was that calendar of 2025 where they pre-announced Tomb Raider and Star Wars releases. Before Zen even said, hey, we didn't say anything about this kind of stuff. So I think AtGames just really just went ahead and jumped the gun and just assumed, well, y'all develop stuff for 4KP. This uses the same chipset. So, why not go ahead and just port your games back over here as well, with just on 1080p and not 1440p. And I don't think that went over well with Zen at all.
So you think they basically jumped the gun before even having the conversation with Zen about whether or not they would do it?
Honestly think they jumped the shark on it, because even like you said, to do a blockade, Mel Kirk was on there and he says, I don't even know what you're talking about. What is HDP?
Yeah, that Blockade podcast, that's created a lot of confusion, hasn't it? I watched a little bit of their most recent podcast before tonight's show earlier, so very interesting. We'll go over to you now, RetroTech. What do you think the holdup is, or the delay for Zen Studios and the AtGames Legends Pinball HDP? You've got one behind you. I'm sure you've got a 4K next to it, so you're not dying to get the Zen Studio stuff, but for the people that just have that Turtles, why do you think they're still waiting?
I think the biggest thing right now is that they, with the HDP coming out, And the Zen side, I think they had a lot of restructuring since the Embracer Group took over.
Yeah.
And that restructuring, I think, is becoming more clear now that we did get the announcement from Zen Studios this last week. To me, that's suggestive of, hey, we're finally getting our ducks in a row, and we'll start to see some stuff start to trickle out back to Zen again. And I think that's what's really it's been holding stuff up. Not only on the 4KP side, where they pretty much run dry with what they have. Earthshaker was the only one that I know of that was still in the hopper.
Same thing I heard, yeah.
And then everything else for the HDP would just be concurrent releases with 4KP as they come out, I imagine, before they start to go back into the old library again. So I think that's all it is, to be honest. AtGames has made it very clear multiple times that they have a relationship with Zen, and they've said that they are coming to this device, and other than it just being held up, I don't know what else we could just say other than just say we want to make it a harder decision than it is and say that they're lying. But I mean, to me, it's been pretty well straightforward. But I think this announcement from Zen actually clarifies things a little better, to be honest, for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, when we get into it, I would appreciate you explaining that, because you got to understand, I'm trying to understand too.
Sure.
Right?
Everybody is, for sure.
Yeah. Billy, what about you, my man?
Well, I'm sorry. I just saw something in the chat that said, am I okay? Get lost and up here. Yeah. First, wait, before I say anything, howdy, folks. I hope you're doing well.
There you go. You have to do
it. I feel like I'm obligated to do that anytime I show up on camera now. My apologies.
300%. Yes.
Yeah. So, but originally when they first announced the HDP, and I was looking at it, going over everything, and they're like, oh, it's coming soon. And I'm like, I'd hold back. I wouldn't hold them to that just yet. Blockade, well, they want us to support the HD. And it was just kind of like, it fell off. Yeah. Now, to Troy's point, they are restructuring. There have been layoffs. They've got to kind of refocus and get things together. I'm not as confident. And again, based on that, frequently asked questions doc that was sent out, there's some information that was missing. Some of us are reading into that, but with everybody being so tight-lipped, that also breeds this kind of thought process, right? Everybody's now is like, oh, yeah, they're leaving. They're, rats jumping off a sinking ship, whatever, put whatever analogy you want in there. But fact of the matter is we don't know. Nobody's saying anything. But that keeping everything compartmentalized, not saying anything, speculation is going to run rampant. And until somebody speaks up and says something, we're all going to be circling the drain, trying to figure out what they're doing. But that's what makes it difficult, I think, on all of us, because we plunked down a lot of money on that machine, and we expected, and maybe we, not rightfully so, we expected 4K Zen on that machine. That's not what we got. And let's face it, the last couple tables that they released were a little buggy. So hopefully they get their act together and we get some updates, we get some fixes, and that's how we'll move forward. But so that's my take on it.
It's not like nobody's saying anything, because one side is very clearly saying something. AtGames is constantly saying, everything's fine with Zen. Don't worry, guys. Everything's cool. And, and I take that as they wouldn't say that unless that was the truth, right? So, but it's a little weird because nobody's really taken that as that concession. It feels kind of like, one of those relationships on Facebook where you say, I'm with Susan, but Susan's clearly sleeping with a lot of other people. Like, it's a very weird situation. So really quickly, we got a $5 super chat here from my buddy Stock Jock, one of the nicest people in the home arcade space. Wait, wow, great guest lineup tonight. Wow. Way better than Danny's guest last night. Love you, Mike B. Thank you very much, Stock Jock. And we also had a member, this Cornercade guy, join for 7 months. Thank you so much, Cornercade, whoever you are, for being a member. Greatly appreciated.
And if I may say one thing, Mike,
yeah,
I had that shirt first, Cornercade.
I was so mad. He stole that from you. Totally.
Yeah, turd.
Just like he tried to steal B. Kirby's ALU.
I'm coming for you, sir. I'm coming for you.
All right. So moving on from there, then we had the Blockade podcast, which you guys talked about. And Mel Kirk was like, yeah, and they want us to make these games for the ADP, but HDP, but we'll see. I took that as Mel Kirk positioning with AtGames, saying it was almost like, yeah, we'll see. He wasn't saying we won't do it, but I think it almost felt like it was a negotiating tactic. Like, honestly, that's not something like a high-level executive would mention on a podcast like that. That's not normally what you do through licensing relationships, but I don't know everything about licensing. To me, it felt like he was throwing a salvo out there saying, yeah, this is something we could do, but they're going to have to pay for it. And that's the impression I got. What do you think, RetroTech?
Oh, well, for me, yeah, I think the comments were, first of all, lack of decorum would be the first thing I would say. I feel like if they do in fact have a partnership, which they have, I think they could have done a lot to be a little more cordial with that discussion there. But they were put on the spot, and I know Mel Kirk in particular had even said during the podcast that he's done a lot of travel to Hungary for that, and I kind of credit that to he's trying to keep it together, quite frankly, on supporting 9 platforms is what they were doing at the time. So I think some of this consolidation is just saying, hey, we can't continue. It's not sustainable what we're doing. And so I kind of give him a little bit of grace based on that, but that's what I'm saying. But he's definitely like, yeah, we have this thing and they changed it up on us maybe. So yeah, we're going to probably support it, but we've already got enough things going on right now that he probably didn't want to talk about it. So it just kind of came up. But that was my take.
Kaotic, your opinion?
I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, guys. It's negotiating tactics is the way it came off as, and there's really just too much speculate, too many like factors and not enough. Not enough to, I don't know. Sorry. I lost my train of thought.
That's okay, man. We'll move on to Billy.
I mean,
Kaotic got into that supply from 6, I guess.
No, don't do it.
Billy, go ahead.
Basically the same. Part tactic, part I'm tired, part we got a lot of stuff going on. And I mean, look, what was it? 20% of the staff was let go.
Yeah.
Right. So, they've got to refocus. Anytime somebody new comes in, heads roll. So, and the way I kind of looked at it too is this is a separate machine. So right out of the gate, AtGames basically said, look, you're going to have to rebuy everything to put on the HDP. You're going to have to buy it all over again. So, of course, it comes down to licensing and everything else, and they need to work that out if they can get on the same page. That's it.
I do want to bring up this comment from Here to Spread My Sparkle MG because he gets very salty if I don't bring up his comments on screen. Man, RetroTech X is what MichaelBtheGameGenie is training to look like. Not sure plastic surgery is allowed, though. I think he likes the way you look. In fact, I would use one of MG's terms to say he finds you not to be a difficult wank. So, great to see MG.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds very British.
All right. So, there's been so much weird stuff going on. We talk about Zen Studios. I'm looking at this situation. You've got Mel Kirk saying this. You've got AtGames saying what they're saying. Like, it's going back and forth. And then Right now, we are sitting at halfway through the third month of the year, and we only have one Zen Studios release. Like, if you do a little bit of pushing and speculating on, is this the release schedule? Does that mean we're only getting 4 Zen Studios games this year? What's happening? And, you know, I've heard people say this. The only other game they had currently in development for the 4KP was Earthshaker. So what exactly is happening? That's kind of where I am right now. I've been waiting for the shoe to drop with Earthshaker. That's the next one I'm interested in buying. I love the Williams recreations. That's mainly what I want. So I'm waiting for that. And then all of a sudden, the other day, after all this is going on, we get this update from Zen Studios, which has caused a lot of interesting speculation. I saw Meatball Saucy say there a couple minutes ago. Meatball Saucy said it's pretty clear. They said they weren't going to be supporting AtGames in their update. I don't necessarily think they did say that. I'm going to be very clear about that. I want to kind of go through this and ask you guys your thoughts. First up, on World Cup Soccer. World Cup Soccer is a game a lot of us love. Brian, I know you hated it when it was first released on the 4KP because it needed some fine tuning. But, you know, anybody that currently has it, great. If you don't have it, I think it was on sale for like $5 or something, someone said. But I would advise you to pick it up. This is one of the best games on the AtGames Legends Pinball 4K if you like the Williams recreations. As long as it's in your library, you'll be fine. But after, what exactly is the date that it's leaving? April 30th. So I'd pick it up. What do you think of this news? World Cup Soccer is going away. What does it kind of tell you? Billy, we'll start with you, brother.
I think it's just somebody else is going to license it. It's going to go someplace else. You know, you got FIFA this year. So they're shopping it around. That's all it is. I don't see it anything other than that. Somebody else is going to buy the license up for a better price. That's it.
Retrotech X. So, piece of garbage.
I think Blockade put it the best way possible. They talked pretty intensive about World Cup Soccer, and what they said made perfect sense. If you're going to license this, and you're going to want to do that at the early end of the cycle, where you can actually have sales to support it. Most people have already bought this game on every one of their platforms that is currently available, including the VR. That's already done and over with. So if you haven't already got it, there's no reason for them to re-up that license going forward beyond April 30th. So why do it? You're probably not going to get additional sales from the people who have probably already purchased it. And it was pretty reasonably priced even on AtGames and everywhere. It was pretty much $5 everywhere until they upped the price here a little bit ago. But that made perfect sense to me. And I think that's spot on, to be honest. It's just licensing.
Brian, what about you, man?
To add on to what Retrotech X is saying is basically with the licensing cost, is there a possibility that do they have to pay a certain amount for each platform that they support? In other words, 9 different platforms to put this out on. Do they have to pay money for each one of those platforms, or is it just one single license? Put it on everything that you can. So it makes a total lot of sense if it's late in the cycle. It's already been purchased mostly by everybody. There's no reason to continue to license and save more money because you're not having to put this out on so many different platforms.
Yeah, I know MG is a lot, isn't he, Billy Woods? He's a lot.
I'm trying to ignore the chat, but
yeah, that's the reason why I failed and lost my train of thought last time. I'm like,
damn MG. I can't believe he's a mod. I don't know who did that. Anyways,
take away his wrench.
That's a poor choice.
I want you to think about this a little bit differently now. Instead of like the licensing cycle, isn't this an overall sign that it looks like Zen Studios is basically trying to cut down costs, and maybe just overall the cost of the FIFA license exceeds what they would normally spend on a specific license. So they decided to cut bait on that one just to try to drop costs. It came up, it was a little bit too high to renegotiate, and they said, no, we'll let that one go.
No, I totally agree with that.
I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. But I also think somebody else is making something. I think somebody else is going to make a machine.
You think somebody's going to make a machine? Like a real one? Like a recreation?
Yep. Recreation.
Oh, That's interesting. So you think that like one of the new companies,
American Pinball.
yeah, American Pinball, that would be a great Williams to remake. Like it is really fun, and yeah, good point.
And perfect timing, Billy, with this year's FIFA. You're absolutely right.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's a good speculation right there.
Yeah, Billy Woods is breaking news here tonight, guys. Breaking news.
Speculation. I don't know
Bravo.
So
shit. I don't know a damn thing.
I want to go back and talk about the rest of the update. And to me, I'll go back to the cost saving things from dropping World Cup Soccer. It looks like a lot of what they're doing here is really trying to centralize everything into the same branding. So it's simple. Everything isn't as confusing as before. Everything is going to be Pinball FX going forward. So Pinball M becomes Pinball FX Midnight. Pinball FX or Pinball World becomes Pinball FX Go. Pinball FX VR. Pinball FX 2 VR becomes Pinball FX VR Classic, and then Pinball FX 3 becomes Pinball FX Classic. So they're still going to support those because they know there's users that are still using them. Pinball FX. I don't actually play Pinball FX VR 2 very much on VR or Star Wars now that we have Pinball FX VR because it's such a better platform. But especially for at-home cabinet builders and even people with like the original AtGames Legends Pinball HD, everybody uses Pinball FX3 because it just works so easily with the cabinets. It wasn't a resource hog like Pinball, the new Pinball FX is, so people love it. So they're still going to support that. The big change is they're not going to support as many platforms as they did. So like we're getting some exclusions, which they very clearly said here. So Xbox One is no longer going to be supported. I think it was PlayStation 4, no longer going to be supported. Wouldn't that also lead to the fact that they're bleeding resources? The Embracer Group came in, they've cut staff, they're trying to cut down their expenses. Obviously, there's additional expense to try to get these platforms continual to work with these. Isn't that a good reason why maybe they're no longer supporting them? Start with you, Billy.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. Look, the older systems are exactly that. They're older systems. How many people are actually buying new stuff on them? You know, what's their base on it? You know, and you got to keep moving forward. It's unfortunate, to your point, something like FX3 though, that's the only place right now that we, it's not like we get Family Guy, right? On the other side. So there are certain platforms where they kind of have to hang around a bit because otherwise you're losing games. And maybe there's no way to license it or port it over to, Pinball FX. So certainly cutting back on some of these older systems is just a necessary evil. But and I don't recall seeing anything about the Switch in there either. So, it's not like they're saying that's going away or whether or not that's really staying, which is kind of interesting to me. Hopefully it stays because I'm trying to hunt down one of those OLEDs for the mini pin that I recently got. So, I think it's just, like you said, cost cutting savings and trimming off some of those older platforms that really aren't producing for them anymore. It's just the way it goes.
Meatball Saucy says, yeah, FX3 has all the Fox licenses, great tables, Archer's Pup Pack for the win. Yep. Retro Tech X, what do you think of these moves? Like, is it more cost savings internally?
Yeah, it's certainly going to save them some costs, but to Billy's point, the Switch and Switch 2 are the same version. They have not done any Switch 2 conversions or upgrades. So what I think will probably happen is they will come out with a Switch 2 upgrade and then slowly cut Switch 1 out of support. That's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. They don't run as good on Switch as they do on Switch 2. It's just fact. So there's definitely some cost cutting there. And also every time Zen has changed platform from FX to FX2 and then to FX3, they've made poor choices every single time. And they've went to that Unreal Engine and they've destroyed their own software every single time. You lost the Zen originals, then you lost the ability to have aliens and all those come forward. they continue to hurt themselves, and they keep giving us discounts to rebuy our software again and again. So this is frustrating to me because I'm like, just leave it alone. We know that Pinball FX World is the same thing as Pinball FX Go. That's just semantics. I don't understand why they do this stuff, but to me, it's just tells me that they're going to try to rebrand and then recharge again with another Unreal Engine 5 that everybody wants to go to, and I think it's just going to make more confusion and more problems. So that's my take. But
what do you think, Brian?
No, completely agree. I mean, it's kind of hard being the last guy to talk about stuff because everybody makes really good points. But I mean, with cutting labor, cutting costs, it's and plus older systems. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
So the big thing that I want to take away from this is a lot of people are taking the fact that AtGames wasn't mentioned as an indication that they are not working with AtGames. But here's the thing. They specifically named the company or the consoles and the platforms they were no longer going to be supporting. They didn't say AtGames, but they also didn't say they were cutting support of AtGames. So it's that ambiguity and unclearness right now, which is really causing a lot of this confusion. And Brian, I'll start with you this time, so you get to shine. Let's get that mustache in the wind.
Right. All right. So there's a lot of confusion about AtGames and Zen and what Zen considers AtGames as a platform. Is it a Pinball FX platform? Yes and no. Before our, on our, I'm used to my 4K TMB here. I'm touching Alice. On the apron, it would say FX Legends 4KP. So it was considered FX Legends platform, right? So with them not mentioning them as a FX platform, I don't consider them as a Pinball FX platform. Nowhere on the loading screen does it say this is a Pinball FX, table or anything like that. It's considered its own platform. So therefore, when Zen says we're continuing support on these systems and discontinuing support on these systems, AtGames is not mentioned at all. It's because I feel like AtGames is not considered any of those type of platforms.
Interesting. Okay. What about you, Troy?
That's pretty cut and dry, just like Brian said. I mean, when you look at control, when Zen drops things on their other platforms, they control everything. On AtGames, they don't. They deliver a product and they release it.
Damn.
So, and that's the difference here. So,
Billy,
to me,
you
it
agree?
is completely excluded. And sorry, just one other thing is they don't mention VR until the very end. They didn't mention VR on that same line. And then they later on had to clarify that VR is in fact going to get support. So, yeah.
There you go.
Well, before we go to Billy, why wouldn't they do the same for AtGames then? Right?
They apparently, like I said, I still think they're adjusting things, and they just don't want to make any brash statements about it until they know what the heck they're actually going to do.
In other words, they don't want to pull an AtGames statement.
Bingo, yeah.
Tomb Raider.
Yeah, that was a big oops. That was a big announcement.
4KPP.
I honestly, I feel bad for the AtGames employee that made that statement because I just don't think they knew that it wasn't a game that already existed on Zen. I don't think they had any idea that they were breaking a reveal. They were just making a calendar. And, not everybody that works at a company, whether it be marketing or something like that, is, high into the gaming sphere and knowledgeable. Sometimes a job is just a job. And I think that's one of those examples. Billy, anything else you want to add to that, brother?
Nope. They basically nailed both points, really. Nothing else to say about it.
All right, we got a $5 super chat here from my buddy P-Dubs. Here's $5, but just like teaming with Kaotic and Arc Raiders, I'm sure he'll steal this goop. I don't get the Arc Raiders reference, Brian. You're going to have to tell me about that. And we also got a new member here from MichaelBtheGameGenie. So thank you very much.
He's awesome.
Oh, nice.
Great guy.
Great dude. Great dude.
Hey, Mad Ben Han. Not true. Tomb Raider is FX, but they did list AtGames. Look at that. There you go.
trying to understand that one.
Yeah.
Mad Ben, you might want to rephrase that. Goop,
Yeah.
goop, 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 goop. I don't understand what this goop is, Brian. Are you putting goop on P-dubs and MG late at night?
No, that's what you call loot when you take stuff in Arc Raiders. We call it goop. Thank the burnt peanut for that.
Thank the burnt peanut for that.
Yes.
All right. So now we get into the clarification, all this stuff that came out about the important updates and facts. And Troy, I saw that you were a little upset because they did not clarify in this anything about AtGames at all, correct?
Correct. They did not.
So
No specifics whatsoever.
Yeah. What were you looking to see in this fact? Obviously, there was a lot of questions that came out of the initial update about what's going to happen with AtGames and just nothing. What did you want to see in this fact sheet?
If nothing else, just to say that they are continuing partnerships outside of Pinball FX platform would have been suffice. But I think they've been deliberately quiet, and that's just added to confusion. And they're trying to do it for leverage, is all I can feel like. And
I
it's
agree.
just bad play, quite honestly. Zen Studios has really got pie on their face as it is, because they've been delivering products to AtGames, and then they have not been patching their own games. So we've got broken games on AtGames that they have released that is not AtGames' responsibility to test, clearly, because they don't have the ability to patch them. So testing them would only find the errors. We have case after case after case where they are not patching their games and they're not getting fixed. So I think this is a leverage play, and I just think it's just bad. It's a bad look for Zen, quite honestly. So,
Billy Woods, that got a reaction from you. Do you want to comment on that?
100%. You know, they constantly, especially lately, with screwing the pooch every time they drop a game. They're buggy. They're slow. You know, Black Knight 2000. I mean, the sound is completely borked on it. Still pushed it out. Like, I did a comparison on it. You can totally hear the difference between what the real machine sounds like, what it sounds like on Pinball FX, and even at that, it's still a little wonky. But it's the music is like 10% slower. Everything else is fine, but it's 10% slower. Plus, it's it's a little janky. They need to do a better job. You know, like Troy said, they're just pushing it out. It's not, even if AtGames tested it, there's nothing else they could do with it. They can't patch it. They can't fix it. Maybe delay it, but then you're losing revenue and sales. So what do? Do you hold it, or do you push it out and hope at some point that it gets fixed?
That's what they did with Earthshaker. Let's be honest.
Yeah, they held
Earthshaker on every other platform sounds terrible.
Mm-hmm.
You can play it on Switch right now, and it's awful. You play it on Steam, it's a garbled mess. So I'm sure AtGames got that and said, it's the same thing as everywhere else. We're not releasing this. Fix the darn thing.
You know, plus it seems like they're, everything is slower when it comes to, a 4K release. I look at Medieval Madness, right? Half the time the ball can't get up the ramp because it's the physics are slower. Sure. They need to do a better job, period.
Brian, anything to add to that?
I mean, like, the only patches we've ever seen from Zen is the flipper lag and Jurassic Park music update. Then there's been no other adjustments, POVs adjustments, flipper strength adjustments, or anything like that. Like, I've always had an issue with games like Medieval Madness as well as Attack from Mars. And then, of course, your sound issues with Sword of Fury and as well as Black Knight 2000. Great that you can get the SSF kit dialed in, and some POVs are looking really good and some of them look really terrible. one of my biggest complaints about World Cup soccer is that soccer ball spinner is so freaking loud. And it sounds like it's grinding.
Party zone.
Yeah.
Party zone was rough. Yeah.
When I was a beta tester for AtGames, I even brought that up as a bug. I was like, please tell Zen to fix this, that the party zone, the mechanic in the middle, is when it turns his head, it's so freaking loud. It's the loudest noise that the SSF kit makes, vibrates the entire machine. And AtGames will say, all right, we'll pass it along. And then there was nothing. They just went ahead and released it anyway. So,
you had issues with Black Rose too. I remember, because the plunger wasn't strong enough to get it around the orbit.
Correct.
Right. You had mentioned it.
Correct too. And I brought that up as well.
Yep.
And even my supervisor was like, noted. We put it into, I think they called it, what was the software that they used? Red Alert or Red Orca, something like that, to tell Zen, like, hey, you've got an issue. You need the plunger strength just go a little bit more for Black Rose, because you didn't really have that issue with that in any other platforms, but something had to do with the POV of Black Rose for it to do that, and they never did anything about it. So I don't know.
So we'll come back to that in a second, because someone did ask about the beta testing, which I do want to know about. But Mad Ben Han came back to us and he said, the announced FX release dates, but still listed AtGames as a platform, but lately have been dropping AtGames as a platform. So that's what, Troy, you mentioned earlier that, you don't consider AtGames to be a platform. There has been a tonal shift. Like, there was a period where I was watching Pinball Bites and like AtGames stuff, and they were really heavily marketing AtGames. They were talking about AtGames, talking about the Legends 4KP, and they've dropped from doing that in the last little while. I mean, as somebody looking on the outside with no internal information, how am I supposed to take that as a customer? Like, does that show a lack of faith, or does that show a drop off of a partnership? That's kind of the ideas I want to get from you guys. Questions. Why do you think that Zen Studios themselves have stopped doing that?
Sorry, go ahead, Troy.
Go ahead, Billy. I want to finish your thought there.
Well, so I kind of feel like the only one that they've had since like Elvira was Bethesda, right? Like, wasn't that the last one? Yeah. And I feel like that's the only one that they didn't bring it over on. So maybe it's a license thing, whatever. If it were 2 or 3, so, if the next one comes out and they don't mention AtGames again, okay, maybe. But right now, one doesn't make a pattern. So if we see it more and more, then sure, then it's a pattern, and, we'll, as customers read into that even more. But to me, one doesn't make a pattern. And that's really all that's all I got to say about that.
To Mad Ben,
go ahead, Troy.
To Mad Ben Han's point, you have to be really careful when you're looking at their website where they were listing AtGames and all the other platforms. At the time of that release, or when they started removing AtGames' logo from their different website, those were for buy on device links. So if you were to click on those links, it would take you to that device. So it would take you to the Nintendo eShop to buy that game. And AtGames had removed the ability to buy on 4KP games from it was only on device. So you couldn't buy it on the website anymore. So you got to be really careful with the interpretation of that, because yes, that was a link to buy the game, which no longer exists. So of course they're going to pull that logo. So yeah, it does. Again, all of these things that are not being clarified continue to look bad for the relationship. But in reality, I think if you really just look at it very carefully, it's not really as bad as it thinks. So
but not everybody's going to have that information or the level of research to go into it and try to identify that. So
you have to go through those process to see it. So
that's good information to know, right? And that fully explains that. So I'm happy with that. I did want to talk about this. You guys talked about the beta testing team. They asked about the beta testing. Like, I've never beta tested for AtGames when I was doing stuff. They would just send me out codes and I would review them. Yeah. And for the last, like, I think it was like 7 months that they were still sending me codes. I got a message one day and they were like, yeah, from now on, we're going to send you the codes day of. And I was like, okay. I mean, I didn't ever question anything. I just assumed that was that they were, working to the last minute to get it out. I don't know. But as the beta testing process worked, basically you guys were getting no joy with putting in issues on these things. What does that really lead you to believe? Does it lead you to believe that Zen Studios just, was there a communication breakdown? Or do you think that Zen Studios was looking at this and saying, our Pinball FX platform is a resource hog. It's very difficult to code for putting these on the 4KP, and maybe the juice wasn't worth the squeeze of doing the updates and getting the games as good as they should have been. Brian, we'll start with you.
It could be a bunch of things. Like, usually Zen don't really release patches for all their other platforms until they get a list.
I saw Meatball say that, or not Meatball, MG say that earlier.
Yeah. So when it came to us, or, in my case, when I was working on Zen tables, testing and everything, anything that wasn't game breaking, I don't think they really cared about. Like, they were just like, you know what, we'll put that on the back burner. We'll look into that. If there's anything that caused the game to actually break and crash, then I think that's when they really took notice and would actually do a patch fix. And that's the reason why you would always see, when you go download a game, you'll see version 1.3 or 1.4 when they actually, do release stuff like that. So, like, I never ran into any like game breaking bugs. Like, the only bugs I really ran into, say, was like Theater of Magic, when I would, like, in multi-ball, would hit both flippers at try to catch a ball that looked like it was coming down the middle, and it would just fly onto the apron and just go right on top of the instruction card and just sit there for a minute, and then eventually would disappear and reset itself and relaunch itself. But that's the only really big time bugs I ever ran into. I reported that, and I guarantee Zen was just like, not a big deal. Does the table crash? Does it play? All right, cool, you're good. We'll deal with that stuff later, and that's the way I really just took it for them.
Billy?
Yeah, I mean, to what Kaotic is saying, yeah, nothing earth-shattering that broke a table. I mean, it's not like what was Troy? What was that one with the dragon where you would the Magic Pixel?
Oh,
game?
Magic Castle.
Magic Castle
Pixel release.
Magic Castle Deluxe, wasn't it?
Right.
Yes.
Where to my knowledge, we haven't had anything like that on any Zen table. Right.
Samurai's Vengeance, we do. Samurai's Vengeance is absolutely broken and has been since day one. You hit that capture hole. Yeah, and Med Ben Han mentioned it too. I was going to say, that one has been broken from day one, and I don't think they're ever going to patch it, sadly. And it's probably because that release realistically had been, the full release of that was like 6 years ago. So this was like a tail end release for them. They were like, one last time to cash in. They're not going to go back and patch that. And it's crap because we bought that game and it was broken from the get-go. Everybody who put a good score on that has gotten lucky. I'm like third on the back glass, and I still can't complete. You can't even get through the game half the time. So
Funhouse, I forgot about the glitch.
Yeah, Funhouse scoring glitch that's part of the ROM. That's a big one.
Right.
Real quick, is that game breaking glitch on all platforms though, or is it just on?
Yes, it is. I've seen it on Switch. I've seen it on Steam.
Okay.
So yes, it is repeatable.
So it's broken. It's just broken at the game level. It's not.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with AtGames. No,
it's just basically in the port.
Yep.
Porting over the same.
And that was the other thing I was going to mention too. Like, you can't blame AtGames when they can run these things on Switch and they run fine. Like, what are we doing? Like, yes, it's a 4K resolution, but the hardware is way stronger than a Switch too. So, like, I don't know. It seems really poorly optimized. And I know people have all mentioned it before. Like, everything that Magic Pixel puts out works just fine.
It's beautiful.
60 works good. They have backglass animations on the Gottlieb games. There's people do other things, but Zen can't seem to do it. So
As I understand it, it runs in a container file too. So it doesn't run the same way that a Magic Pixel or an AtGames
it's not directly
runs.
programmed for it, right?
Right.
It's a weird.
It's a port
Totally
inside. It's a port inside a container file that they're running on the machine. So
yes, that's correct. Good. Thanks for clarifying that. Yes, that's absolutely true.
So really quickly, Jim Jimerson's $5 super chat. Zen tables are cool, but just do VPX. So thank you very much, Jim Jimerson. A lot of people do that. I love VPX on my AL PhD. I've never been able to get it to work on my 4KP. I really haven't had the time to do it. But one of the things that they brought up during that Blockade podcast that I found really interesting was talking about how AtGames was building this system so people could run VPX on the machine. Now, AtGames never built in a system to run VPX on the machine. I think there was some confusion there, but one of the things AtGames has always done, they outside of Zen Studios don't really invest heavily on software. AtGames make an incredible device and then give you this opportunity to connect other things to it, to run emulation on it, or to connect a PC, which is one of my favorite things about AtGames. I love that they do that, but they don't invest in the software. That's why you get this high quality device at a fraction of a price of what basic fun arcade 1-up would do, because the focus will be on software there. But one of the things that they mentioned heavily, which I think I do want to talk about really quickly, is the whole process of being able to bring in games from outside. And does Zen Studios have some kind of issue with that? I'll never forget when the first thing came out about you have to pay for the advanced features, the OTG and stuff like that. Was that a Zen Studios directive? Because the more Blockade talked about it in their last podcast, that's the impression I got, that they were upset at AtGames for the ability for people to bring VPX onto the system. Or was that just them coming out of something with nowhere? Brian, you made a face, so I'll start with you.
I don't see why Zen would have anything to do with an AtGames platform or their hardware to choices of doing stuff like that. I was always under the assumption that AtGames chose to do the OTG and paywall system of their systems because it was their reasoning to keep the price of the 4KP cheaper.
That's not what I heard. Troy, what about you? Have you heard different?
So my take on this is that I don't think so. It kind of goes back to the idea of CoinOps X. The CoinOps X was available on these platforms on the HD side and on the arcade side, and they're no longer around. So because licensing, anybody who licensed anything to this thing does not want that stuff on there because you can use their stuff through emulation.
Yeah.
So with VPX, and I'm shameless plug, I'm going to do a whole conversation on this on Wednesday on my channel, but
get it out there.
VPX versus Zen. So it's literally, this kind of gets into that gray area of Zen is selling professionally licensed games on a platform. VPX is unlicensed, completely open source, and no one's profiting from it.
Yeah.
But it's still emulation. So does Zen allow that to be on a same platform where they're directly competing with that? Or do they, to me, I'm like, I would think they would say, look, if we're going to support, you already caught us with the 4KP, but we're not going to allow that to happen again on the HDP. And so maybe that's the sticking point. I don't know. It's all speculation, of course, but to me, they would be in direct competition with VPX. But you have to consider that AtGames is not a console. It needs to be treated like a PC.
Did you just call it a console? You can't say it like Danny. We got to be very clear about this. It's a console.
Console.
Not a console.
Console.
I've got aftershocks from Danny last night.
I'm just saying that I think AtGames, or I think Zen wants to treat this like it's an Xbox or a Switch or something, and it's not. It's basically a computer. And so they're not telling Steam that they can't have Zen because they have VPX. But here we are with something that's not a console that
Console.
is still being said with the speculation of, hey, maybe you shouldn't be allowed to have our licensing on there if you allow this. So that's the real debate. And if that's the debate, then my show comes into question on Wednesday. If you had to choose, what are you choosing?
I'm glad we could give you a little bit of ammo for your show coming up. But
Yeah.
really quick,
Appreciate
Reeser, your timelines might be mistaken on this because the ALP 4K with the Zen Studios launched long before the advanced features were charged for. So yeah, that
Correct.
was after Zen was in
Correct.
the picture. And I'll clarify this. Back when PK used to talk to me more robustly, and he doesn't talk to me at all anymore, but he openly told me, because I said, why charge for the advanced features? And he openly told me it was because one of the licensors asked for it specifically. And he said something about a retailer asking for it specifically too. I was confused by that. Yeah.
Okay. A retailer, just like a Target kind of, like, what are we talking? Kohl's kind of a thing? Or?
Well, yeah, like Brian's work for AtGames. I think Retrotex, you have a NDA and you do stuff with them.
Yes,
Billy, I don't
I do.
think you really have any connection with them, but
Billy
They
laughs at that.
don't want it to do it.
Yeah.
They don't want anything to do with me.
So AtGames, from my experience, I'll be very clear on this. A lot of things gets lost in translation between complaints and how they react to them. So one of the things they were getting apparently from the retailer specifically was people were returning their machines because they couldn't get the online infrastructure to work. So that's why they asked for it to be paid. So then people wouldn't blame the retailer. And it's one of those weird things. Like I don't in my mind imagine people went out and bought this thing and said, I can't get VPX to work, I'm going to return it. But that's kind of how it was explained to me.
I had heard that too. And that was in relationship, in the context of customer service, people were buying these things and then returning them based on a factor. And I didn't get the whole story like you're saying, so that's good clarification there. But there was definitely something to that vibe that there was some serious customer service issues that they had having these in retail stores based on some of the additional features. So I don't get the whole story on that, but there's definitely some smoke there for sure.
Yeah, it's hard with AtGames because that might be a justified reason, but at the same time, like why they decided to no longer support and the reason that I got very specifically, the reason they decided to no longer support CoinOps X was spite, because people were complaining that AtGames needed to update it when it wasn't AtGames program. So I mean, AtGames were like, fine,
That's
if you
true.
want us to do it, we're going to remove it. So I mean, it sucks because obviously that's a third party. AtGames, if they do an update and it breaks it, that's not really AtGames stuff. They need to communicate with the third party, but it's the third party's job to fix it. But then people turn around and blame AtGames, and AtGames is like, fuck it, we're just not gonna, offer it anymore if we got these kind of headaches coming in.
True.
Yeah, remember the whole firmware update patch that broke OTG?
I was just going to bring that up. I was just going to bring that up.
That happened when I worked there, and that's all I dealt with for 3 months?
Yeah.
As question after question, when is this being fixed? Like, and AtGames told me straight up, like, tell them this. It's actually not our responsibility to figure that stuff out. That's all third party. Everybody's computer is different. Everybody's graphics card's different. Everybody's sound card's different. Processor's different. So many freaking factors depending on this and this and this. It's our firmware fixes our issues. Sorry, it breaks your issues, or your problems.
Yeah,
Really?
but the one problem I have with that, and my answer to
Totally agree with
them
you.
would be, F you, you're charging me for it, so
Exactly.
you need to fix it.
That's where it gets
Tell me
dicey,
it's
right?
somebody else's problem when you push the firmware update and it
force you to do
took
it.
a dump after you pushed the firmware update. So, as I said before, bullshit. Don't piss on my back and tell me it's raining. Like,
Yeah.
and And the
Billy,
other
why would anybody piss on your back? I've never heard that before. Is this something that's happened to you?
all right, dude. All I can say is check out the Jerky Boys whenever you get a chance.
I love the Jerky Boys. I can tell you a funny story really quickly. I'm going to go off script here now. When I was a kid, I loved Friday the 13th, and I was a huge fan. And so one of the things I always wanted to do, being a Canadian, was work at one of these overnight summer camps. And this summer camp came to our university called Camp Winnetou in Massachusetts. So anyways, they came to our summer camp, and I went to work there for a summer. I met the owner. He's very involved, this guy, Shelley Wiener. Anyways, I get home, and then about 2 years later, I'm listening to the Jerky Boys, and one of their skits is they call this camp I worked at, Camp Winnetou, and get Shelley Wiener on the phone. And they're like, yeah, Shelley, I got to talk to you. Some of the kids, they've been harassing my boy. They're taking their baseball bats and jagging it up his hole. And I was like, whoa. So, if you question whether or not the Jerky Boys are real, they talk to the exact guy I work for. I can.
Oh, they're 100%. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
I'm a little out of practice. Otherwise, I could do your Johnny Brennan, your Frank Rizzo, But just to kind of, you know what? Never mind. I lost it. Forget it. Wasn't important.
I'm sorry. I went off track.
That's all right. Nope. It's all good.
So
I got it. No. So the other bone I have to pick with that whole explanation about it being, oh yeah, you'd have your legs broken or you'd walk with a severe limp for the rest of your life. I guarantee that. Jersey boy right here. The issue that I have with that explanation about, somebody having an issue or the returns was, it seemed that everything went paid as soon as VPX became a thing. It was very suspicious that, and that's, primarily why that it's still in beta and probably will be forever in beta, is the fact that they turned around and they paywalled it. That kind of shit all over, that whole project. And I think if it weren't for that, everybody would have access to it and you wouldn't have to wait for a beta code every day. Not to say that you can't get it. There are ways, there's avenues, but fact of the matter is it'd be a public release for everybody if AtGames didn't do that. I guarantee it.
Now, I don't understand how it works. I think AtGames was trying to find the best solution to the answer there. If it was in fact from a Zen Studio side, Troy, you brought this up. I mean, what do people rather want? Do you want the ability to buy Zen Studios games and have this platform supported by Zen Studios, or do you want to play VPX? I mean, I think AtGames tried to find the in-between with the paying for it. But then again, that creates different problems. Like you said, Billy, once you expect somebody to pay for it, you do an update and it breaks it, then it becomes your problem.
Then you own it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a tough one. But anyways, with all this information out there over the course of the last little while, I want to ask you guys before we move on and talk about some of the other platforms, what's your overall opinion? What do you think from everything we're getting, the status is right now between Zen and At Games? Can we expect to see more Zen Studios games show up on the 4KP? Do you expect the relationship to continue to grow? Will we see Zen Studios games come to the ALP HDP like At Games originally said? This is something we're working on, should be available later. Or do you think that, there is a breach here and something different will happen? Let's start with you, Billy Woods.
Jury's out. I mean, it's tough. Again, the silence is deafening. It's hard to say for sure. We're going to have kind of both sides of things. Some of us are going to say, yeah, don't worry about it. It's not a problem. Others people, if you notice, I was looking for my tinfoil hat before. There's some of us tinfoil hatters that are like, oh no, they're screwed. We're going to lose it. And you might as well just gut your machine and do a gut mod and, go full VPX full time. I can't say for sure. I'd like to see it continue. there are a lot of people that have bought this machine that want as close to a download, install, and play experience as you can get. Period.
Yeah.
That's what we were sold. That's what that machine. Where is it? Right there. That guy right.
I can see it. I can see it. Yeah.
There you go. But that's what that machine was all about, right? We expected a somewhat. We all really expected. Let's not BS ourselves. We all expected that PC experience on that box. Period. End of report. 4K Zen tables. Oh, this is going to be amazing. Oh, don't worry about the lag. And then it shows up in our houses and we got the lag. And we didn't get 4K. And just because the machine says 4K on it doesn't mean that all tables are going to run 4K on it. Like, had we known that up front, had they set that expectation, maybe a lot of your customers wouldn't be pissed off about it and maybe you would have sold more machines. I don't know. But fact of the matter is I would love to see this partnership continue, but the silence is deafening and that's hurting both companies, in my opinion.
So before I jump on, I did want to just bring up a point. We mentioned earlier about the update, the flipper lag update. Let's be clear here. That wasn't just Zen. We know that, both Magic Pixel and AtGames put a lot of time into that update as well.
Oh, yeah.
So if that was left to Zen, I don't think that would have got done. It's the fact that everybody worked together to make that happen.
Yeah. AtGames is the real hero in that, quite frankly. I mean, they came in and put resources towards it that they didn't have to do.
Yeah.
So, I disagree. They kind of had to do it.
I think they had.
You're right.
Yeah.
They had to help, but they weren't. They probably didn't get paid for it. I get is my
exactly.
They had to save their platform.
They didn't have to. They did not need to lead the charge the way they did.
True.
Nor did Magic Pixel need to get in there and do it. They could have just been like, go for it. Go
buy
for
our
it.
tables.
Good luck.
Buy their tables.
Yeah.
But them all coming together for the common good of the platform. Is the right thing to do.
It was a good moment. It was a good moment for AtGames, for all the fans and stuff like that. And I want to thank John Wagner too, because John Wagner, who was working at AtGames at the time, I do believe, but he did such a good job of listing every single table, what the performance was, what the resolution was, gave clear expectations. And one of the things that AtGames does that I wish they wouldn't do, a lot of times they get too excited and they come out and they announce something too early. Like they've done it with us over the years. Super Game Room dudes, they announced the AtGames Racer when they just had a machine they had seen from Alibaba that they could, build and put out, and they probably shouldn't have announced it at that time. But like, again, going with the Zen Studio stuff and stuff, like they just get ahead of themselves. And, that's something that they probably shouldn't do going forward. All right, Brian, let's go with you, and then we'll go with Troy next. What are your thoughts? Zen and AtGames, will they continue? And what will the level of their relationship be?
I mean, honestly, it would help both companies if they just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off and either heal from it and continue working together or cut ties. Just give us answers, really, because all the speculation it's like Billy says, it's hurting both companies. And like you said earlier in the broadcast, that it's like that relationship where one says, "Oh yeah, we're completely fine," and the other one's like, "I'm effing everybody I can,"
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep positive about it. And before, we would always say no news is bad news. And with this latest Zen, message and FAQ and everything, I kind of chalked it up as no news is being good news, as you're not being mentioned on the chopping block and you're not being mentioned, anywhere else. So you're kind of just like in limbo, and that's fine. But honestly, for AtGames to get a win here, announce one other table releasing other than Earthshaker, and we'll consider that as a win. Or just give us something. Like, you're hurting both companies. Both companies are being hurt. All these customers that bought a 4KP for the reason to play Zen natively are being hurt as well. Like, just don't leave us. Yeah, like Mad Ben Han says, don't leave us in ambiguity or I can't even say the word.
Ambiguity.
Thank you. Just go ahead and give us some kind of announcement. Hopefully, this next Pinball Bites will get something.
Yeah, Troy, you want to jump in there, and I'll come in with some closing thoughts on that.
All right. So to Tony's point in the chat, I'll just make a quick mention on that. The Bethesda pack not coming to 4KP, I think that has more to do with the fact that that's considered a Pinball M release, and that M is not going to be supported on AtGames anymore because they want to be a more family-friendly device. So I think that's probably why they're pulling back from that, with the Thing and Chucky being the two that came out. And they do have parental controls, so I've mentioned to them, like, you have parental controls. There's no reason you couldn't do that. Let us be parents and let us parent. Just release this stuff, but whatever. And that's probably a PK decision. I don't know that for a fact, but to the idea of will Zen come to the HDP and continue on the 4KP, I believe absolutely. And the reason I say that is because there is documentation out there that says they will. They've sold a product that has said that they will, and if they don't, they are going to have to do legal action against Zen to make sure that it happens or be compensated in some way. There's no way you can make those claims and then not deliver. So I would think they, at the very least, the 68 titles of Zen that we currently have in the 4KP would have to at least be eligible to come to the HDP. That's my stance on it.
And that's really interesting. So I will go back, and it all depends on the contract there.
True.
If AtGames doesn't have the rights to release these games on another platform, and they announce this without getting confirmation from Zen first, I don't think they have a legal recourse. I think that's on AtGames.
That's just it. That's all contract language, and that's the sticky part. I mean, it's the exact same chip with a different display panel. So could you say that, is it a completely different new platform? Maybe. It's still going from Unreal Engine to Linux in the conversion. I even made the mention in my last Pinball post, like, why can't you just take the 4KP and put it into a performance mode and drive that display down to a 1080p and just let it be? Why couldn't that work? And I don't, for whatever reason, there's probably not something that would work for that. But to me, I'm like, they've said multiple times that thing is going to have Zen, and I have to trust that they are going to deliver on that. Otherwise, you would think that there has to be legal repercussions based on that. Unless that contract is just loosey-goosey, and you would think it'd be, maybe it is, but man, oh man, what an epic blunder if that's the case. I'm sure the chat's blowing up. You guys are trying to read. I'm not looking at it here.
Thanks, great guess, and Billy Woods Mod. Sadly, you couldn't save the sinking ship. Thanks to Michael B. the Game Genie for putting one of my comments on screen. Now I know what the B on your hat is for. I have a C on my hat. C on my hat. MG, you son of a bitch. James, I want to reference to James here, who we consider to be our community legal beagle on this. They created a new SKU. Zen is under no contractual obligation to support it. I'm in the camp that I agree with James on this, because it all depends on the language in the contract. And if they have an open license to offer Zen games on all Zen Legends or Legends platform family of devices, that's one thing. But if their contract is specifically for the Legends 4KP, that means that it's something completely different. So it would all depend on the contract. And then I wonder if, say for example, I'm a person that bought it based on AtGames literature that they released saying Zen was coming, isn't there possible legal action that could then be taken against AtGame for false advertising? Yeah,
I would think so. One way or the other, somebody's going to get it.
Right? There's going to be problems one way or another.
Yes.
So I want to come back with my stance on this, because it's often confused that people throw up like, oh, Mike is saying that they're done and all that stuff. I never once said they were done. I have always taken the stance that I think what they're doing here is Zen is playing a dance, asking for more money, asking for more resources. If Zen did intend to cancel the relationship, regardless of, we'll talk about what's a console, what's not a console, what's a Zen Studios platform. I think it would have been mentioned in one of these updates. I do not think Zen Studios intends to end the relationship. I do think that maybe Zen Studios, as we can see from everything else, is in a bit of a restructuring piece. They're in a bit of a restructuring piece where they have to find cost savings on resourcing. That's why they're not supporting older systems. That's why they're bringing everything together under one roof. That's why they're only focusing on stuff that's easy to port to. Obviously, the AtGames Legends Pinball, as we talked about, isn't easy to port to because of the way it's done. So that requires more resources. So I think what you can read between the lines, and this is my opinion, is that Zen Studios is saying we want to support the Legends Pinball 4KP. However, we have less resources, we have less money. We're going to need more money to continue supporting it. And I think this is mostly a negotiating tactic from Zen's part, trying to get AtGames to pony up. The problem on the other side is we know AtGames have kind of gone through a little bit of restructuring on the Legends 4KP side, let go a bunch of staff. We don't know exactly what's going on there, but maybe we're in this zone of no answer on this where Zen wants more money. Maybe AtGames doesn't have more money to offer. So we're kind of in an in-between. It's clear that Zen Studios hasn't wrote off AtGames at this point, and it's also clear that AtGames 100% continues to offer the Zen Studios, because let's be honest, if you're dealing in digital pinball and you're not dealing with Zen, what are you dealing with? This is the pinnacle of the home arcade space or the home pinball space for digital pinball. If you don't have Zen, what do you have?
Well, to that point, we got to remember too, Zen tables and the 4KP as a whole only represents about 5 to 7% of AtGames market share for the system. So it's a very small but very loud minority of people complaining about it.
See, I would love to know where you're getting that numbers from, because I think that, and this is my chance to talk a little bit of shit on AtGames. AtGames like to get the news they want to hear. So like when I used to complain to PK, I'd be like, PK, you got all these amazing Williams licenses. Why don't you do more tables like Attack from Mars? Why don't you do another one? He's like, listen, we know our stats. Dinosaur Dynasty is the future. That's the best-selling game in our ecosystem. I think that PK is the kind of person that gets news that supports his views and what he wants to think. So that 5% for Zen Studios and stuff like that, I would be shocked if that's real data. I mean...
Well, when you consider the HD systems and the micro systems are probably... they had a lot of these pinball games came out on the arcade cabinets too, and then were sold on there long before too. So plus the puck, I don't know if you remember the puck. That was
so that's using an aggregate data, because like all reporting and statistics are done a specific way. You're supposed to use representative samples and timely information. If you don't use the right information, it's garbage in, garbage out. So saying that only represents 5% of the total software sales. Well, is that over the lifetime, or, how does that work? Because is that really relevant data at that point?
You can kind of track the numbers based on the leaderboards of sales of the actual games, but just based on the number of entries for those different things. So you can kind of track some of that. Yeah, Dinosaur Machine did not There's no way that thing sold well, but
no, I don't. I can hear whatever anybody wants to tell me about stats and stuff like that, but there is no way to justify some of the decisions they make and some of the stats they bring up to justify it. Like I won't even engage in that conversation.
Fair enough.
I know what
I
you're
won't try
saying.
to convince you.
You don't have to try to convince me, but I know that it's they can say like, well, we're doing so well with the other games, and some of them are really good. But I mean, I could do a poll right here in the chat and ask everybody to throw up there, what would you prefer, Zen or Magic Pixel AtGames Originals? And I would tell you that over 80% of people would say I'd rather Zen. Do you think I'm wrong, Billy? Chaotic? No. You're muted, Billy.
Billy muted.
Nope. Hang on. There we go. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Sorry about that.
Gotcha.
I have to agree. People are going to chase Williams, period. And I kind of feel like they need to stop that to a point, because, you know, they haven't been great. You know, the ports haven't been great. I mean, that's what everybody wants, but they haven't been great. And, you know, Firefighter Wildlands kicked ass, in my opinion. And not because I'm a firefighter. I just think it was a great table.
Damn good table.
You know, and then, you know, the next one that's coming out, I got high hopes for that. You know, so and I think it was Cammy who said on your show that, you know, some of the best tables don't require IPs. You know, you could do a race car table and it would be, you know, awesome. It's just got to be done the right way. So I think, not that we can really tell anybody what to do, right? But I kind of feel like, you know, take a step back and give some other stuff a chance. You know, I'm not a fan of these EM tables, but, you know, I was pleasantly surprised by Tropical. You know, this last one that came out, Woods Queen, you know, it played really well. The artwork, you know. Hey,
the artwork's the best part. Have you seen that chick?
I like the chick. You know, I don't know if you saw what happened when
one of my
pictures got one of my pictures got mixed up when I was trying to put the thumbnail together, and somehow I wound up on the back of the dinosaur with her. I'm sure that dinosaur ate me 5 minutes later, but, you know, fact of the matter is, you know, you got to give some of this other stuff a chance. But, you know, in some cases you can't try before you buy, but, you know, we have that opportunity a majority of the time to hop over to Steam to try these other tables out. If it ain't your cup of tea, it ain't your cup of tea. You know, you just want to, what's that? Just want to hear Billy Wood's voice is not AI. Trust me, it ain't AI, dude. But one other thing too, if you guys wouldn't mind looping back to something James said in the chat, and I shared it in the Discord, Mike, and it has to do with Zen Studios on the HD. The page 8 on the, you know, fact sheet, basically 1.6 said, will I be able to purchase pinball tables from Zen Studios? And it says not at launch. However, we're working diligently to bring more tables, including those from Zen. So that right there tells you, you know, and that's exactly that. A full list of tables and their release schedule will be announced at a later date. You know, so you're expecting to buy an HD machine that may or may not support Zen tables.
Yeah.
You know, so it was the gamble. And I'm sorry to kind of roll back on that, but, you know, that was one of the things that, like, I had said initially when it was released was, you know, put on the brakes. You know, if you really want it, go for it. But, you know, don't, it's not a guarantee. And, you know, you always have, you know, OTG to fall back on if you really want to play them. But, you know, don't hold out for it. So sorry to, you know, roll back on that, but I just wanted to make that point and, you know, tell James, yeah, he was correct in that.
Yeah, and I also want to apologize to RetroTech X. The statistics stuff triggered that moment where PK was trying to explain to me why they didn't want to do any more Williams titles, and he had stats to justify it. That's not on you at all. I was just so mad about that. I was like, man, why are you not doing more Williams tables? Because I love that Attack from Mars so much, and I think, like, to me, they had lightning in a jar with these Williams tables, and they just wouldn't do anymore. And I just
as far as the cabinets,
yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Medieval Madness would have been rocking,
right?
I was just going to say that.
I know.
And the answer I got was, we have our own internal stats, and we know what's going to sell. And
and we know who she is.
I don't want to get into that stuff at all.
I understand, but I had to get that out.
All right, so
say that.
Anyways, moving on, like, this is the magic thing about this. Like, a couple of years ago, like, we had 3 choices for digital pinball at home. You know, after you go through the very expensive process of building your own, we had at first Toy Shock, which, you know, offered 10 Gottlieb tables, and they weren't exactly running very well, which is well documented. Arcade 1-Up came out with the Zen Zen standard releases, no additional games, and AtGames came out with the original Legends Pinball HD. And that thing was by far the best overall product of the three, even though it probably had, you know, it had Gottlieb and it had the Zachariah. But in terms of software, like, you know, Arcade 1-Up was so far ahead with Zen Studios, but the AtGames product just outlasted them because it was a better overall product. It was bigger, had clearer resolution, and the OTG stuff made it so good. We fast forward, we all of a sudden have the 4KP, and AtGames completely dominated. If you were doing home pinball, there was only one name in the game, and that was AtGames with the 4KP because they had everything, including Zen. But now we fast forward, you know, a couple years later, and whether or not you're happy with the AtGames Legends Pinball 4KP or something like that, we now have new options for home pinball in the home arcade space. The first one that came up was really a wave of excitement based around Zen Studios Pinball FX VR and the X-Arcade last year. So I just want to talk about that from a competition perspective. How do you think that impacts what AtGames is doing? Do you find it complementary? Do you find it to be a competitor? Maybe some people were like, hey, maybe I don't need to worry so much about whether or not AtGames has this because I've got this other great option over here with Pinball FX VR and the X-Arcade. So let's start with you, Troy. I see you got your X-Arcade there in the background, so I figured that was a good place to start.
So the X-Arcade, so that is a whole... I dabbled with VR in the past with a PSVR 2, had issues with it. I had it for 2 weeks. I said, I can't do this. I got rid of it. Now that I got the MetaQuest 3 and I've been playing it with the pancake lenses, I had to put the prescriptions in there because I'm old. It runs beautifully and it runs great. And so I'm like, okay, this is a great platform. I can play pinball on it, all that. The problem is, to me, is that now you're already... So as far as a platform, it's pretty cool, right? I got the X-Arcade. I had all kinds of issues with it. That's pretty well documented on my channel with all the sound and all the issues I had. It's basically up and running well, like it should now, but I had a lot of issues with it. But it was a brand new product, whatever. It's fine. Is it a direct competition to AtGames? Absolutely. But it's Pinball FX's platform. That's their platform. It's not a third party. So they support it. If anything's wrong with it, they fix it. The problem I'm already seeing, and my biggest fear, is that MetaQuest is already pulling VR software support like Deadpool in these different games. So how long is it before we buy all the pinball games for this sucker, and then they pull it again, and you have to buy them again on Steam VR when the Valve thing comes out? So I'm starting to pull back big time on this because I don't trust them. Right now, I've been doing the 4KP and VR side by side and saying I'm not going to buy it on Steam. I'm not going to buy it on Switch. I used to buy it on those two because Steam is like a forever purchase, which is awesome. And but I really like the 4KP. It's by far my favorite for pinball. But yes, it's a direct competitor. But my increasing fears are that MetaQuest is going to fall, and then we're gonna have to buy all that stuff again or be alienated and isolated again. So
yeah, I just heard about that this past weekend about the whole thing with Meta. You know, I think it was JT Brunick told me during golf that Meta has kind of dropped development of the Quest 4. They've kind of shifted focus now, so that stuff's a little bit scary. Brian, what about you, brother?
I mean, I don't really count it as competition in a way, in my case, because nothing to me will ever replace playing on a physical cabinet, being able to look up at the DMD backglass and the SSF kit, feeling that in your hands. I mean, the X-Arcade replicates that pretty well with VR, but with VR you get so much more detail, being able to look all the way through the table and everything.
Being able to see the depth is the big difference. Like, especially now that you've got Wonderland and you're looking at it, you can notice like it's about that world under glass, and there's something that's just missing from playing a digital pin without that 3D effect that you just don't get, right?
Correct. So like I mean, I just don't think of them as competition. I think of them as complementary because I'm going to buy tables on both, when it comes to, and with the X-Arcade, and the MetaQuest, yeah, you can hook it up to Steam and play Zachariah Pinball VR and have that depth feeling as well. Pinball FX VR. You can also do VPX with VR. And they offer all the depth as well, in VR rooms and everything like that. So it's just, to me, it's just another avenue, something to continue to enjoy these tables. With MetaQuest, you get the actual extra animations besides the table and stuff going on atmospheric wise, but I don't know. To me, there's nothing will ever replace an actual physical cabinet and that ability to put your hands on one.
But even with the X-Arcade where you're physically putting your hands on it, Brian, I specifically have seen thumbnails where you're looks like you're making love to this machine.
All right. Well, in reality, it's a controller and not
true.
a full cabinet. That's what I mean.
Billy
She's
Woods
a
Mods.
pedestal, not with 4 legs.
Billy Woods Mods, have you dabbled in the MetaQuest and the X-Arcade?
He's got it in a box over the corner.
It's been sitting in the same. The haptics kit has been in my basement since it showed up. Time, bro.
I know.
Time.
I know.
I don't like. Sometimes I barely have enough time to. A lot of the guys in Discord know. Like the first 2 weeks of every month for me is hell. So to try to do, like, the last time I used it was movie night. That's the last time I put the MetaQuest on my face. That's all I can say.
Which movie night? Was that Halloween 3?
Halloween
Back in October?
3.
Wow.
Yep.
That's ages ago, brother.
Yep. It's been sitting in the box. I occasionally move it around. Like I had to move it out of the way when I put the Wonderland together. But I bought a bunch of stuff for it. It's just collecting dust. I would love to get to it. I have visions of putting illuminated buttons in the machine in the joystick, and light up that trackball. Sits.
Yeah.
Eventually, I get around to it, but for right now, it's a dust collector. Unfortunately.
At first, I didn't know what Retrotech X was going for there. Like where he unscrewed the top, I was like, "Is that a jar of pickles? Like, what's he got going on there?"
Label out, man. Label it. Thank you.
Look at that branding. He knows what to do.
I almost wore the shirt tonight, but I went for chunk instead.
I got the jersey over there too. I got the pinball table cover. I got all kinds of stuff. The mouse
was
pad.
literally back in the day.
What I like so much about it, like I just explained it, Pinball FX VR, especially with the controller and everything like that, gives you a different perspective that you just don't get from virtual pinball. Being able, I keep saying it, that world under glass, getting the depth that you normally don't get from playing pinball on one of these cabinets. I like it as an option. I don't like it. Didn't take me away from playing on my Legends Pinball 4KP, so I didn't really look at it as competition. It just seemed like another option and a different way to play pinball at home. That's the way I looked at it. So I don't really personally see it as competition. I look at it as a different way to try to experience pinball, because there's certain things that you get from Pinball FX VR that you, with the X-Arcade, you don't get from the 4KP. But in the same way, there's certain things you get from the 4KP that you don't get from Pinball FX VR. Like they came out with that awesome haptic kit for Pinball FX VR, and it's wicked, man. The sound system is incredible and everything, but it's not the same experience as the SSF kit. The SSF kit is more immersive, and it is what it is. So,
Well, I was going to say, bring up JT Brunick's thing too, is the social aspect as well.
Yeah.
With the 4KP, you can actually take turns with somebody. With the MetaQuest and the VR, you're isolated until you take the headset off and give it and hand it to somebody else and say, "Here, stand in front of this and play," and you can play as a second player. And
you have events at your house or Thanksgiving or something, your family comes over, you're not going to pass around a VR headset.
No.
You're going to stand around a 4KP and play pinball.
Correct.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry, I'm
100%
so
what
sweaty.
AGames
Here,
said
put
here.
this on your head.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I think a lot of us, especially that have so much fun in VR playing like Walkabout Mini Golf, the social aspect of that
Such a great
is so
thing.
important, and you lose it with Pinball FX VR. If they could figure out some way that we could all hang out in this place, and I've heard Mystery Encoder talk about it to death, but I think that's what's really missing. I would love to be able to go to one of these rooms like Gatsby's, and it's all pinball machines, and I can just go play VR and hear other people talking in the background, and when I'm not playing pinball, kind of hang out with people. That would be cool, or watch somebody else play pinball.
That's the speculation for Thursday.
Take
We'll
turns.
see.
Yeah. Oh, you think so?
There's
they did say-
a lot of people are kind of thinking maybe that's the thing is the multiplayer that they what they say they specifically called out Walkabout Mini Golf as being the model for multiplayer. So I think they know what they need to do. But can you imagine having those avatars with the two hands, being able to stand side by side with your friends playing pinball in that space? It'd be awesome. So
Yeah, I'd be very happy about that. That would change
you'd
this
still be
conversation
standing
quite a bit.
around, but
Yeah.
I mean, hey, at least be able to screw around with your friends and have fun. So
Well, that's the
Yeah.
big thing that's missing. 100%.
That's
Now,
right.
If you got a big enough room, you could run around like a knucklehead.
Yeah.
it's true.
So I want to talk about something else.
Uh-oh.
Mike, you went out.
We lost you, Mike.
Lost me? Am I back?
There you go. You're back.
Voice,
There you
your
are.
voice
We're
disappeared
back.
for a minute.
I can't play my video. I apologize. But anyways, Brian's put up a lot of footage about this, and also our buddy Billy Woods Mods, who went over to Danny's house and stole his shirt and then wore it for this review. You guys have been covering Alice, so this is a different whole ripple now on the whole home arcade pinball sphere, because now we also have a mechanical device that is, real physical pinball that people can play at home for a competitive price compared to X-Arcade and VR and compared to the AtGames Legends family of devices. So Brian said cheaper under his breath there. So hold on. Oh, my headset went dead. Can you say something, guys, so I can hear you?
You're
I can
good.
hear you.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I got to get rid of this headset. I need a new one.
Yep,
So
that's good.
I know, Brian, you have one. I know, Billy Woods, you have one. Troy, have you had any thought about the Alice Goes to Wonderland pin? Is this
I
something
played
you're
it at Chicago Expo.
Yep.
It was something that I played extensively during those 3 days, and they were burning up coils every 2 minutes, and it was like I played it for 20 minutes and beat basically all the modes, and I was like, I just can't justify buying this, but it's cool. I really want the code to be more complex, but yeah, I didn't buy one. But
I've heard the same thing from Mystery Encoder. It's very simple, is what I'm told. But still cool, really cool.
Yep.
Kaotic and Billy Woods, either one of you jump in first. You guys both have these in hand now. What are your initial thoughts?
I'm really impressed with the build quality of it. Number one. Number two, if any of y'all watched Gamer Fridge earlier today, my daughter was on this thing for probably an hour and a half, straight up just going at it with it. She loves it. My wife loves it too, and that's the big thing for me, is that it's another reason to bring my family members wanting to come in here and they go straight to it and play it. It's a theme that I know not a lot of people in the home arcade community want, but it's a theme that speaks to more than just us. And I think they nailed it out of the park. Now, there is some issues. I don't like the plexiglass
Playfield.
cover.
Yeah.
The playfields, that's another thing. But the actual plexiglass, I wish was actual glass, because I've already scratched the hell out of it.
Wow.
So just pulling it in and out.
I didn't know that.
That's
maintenance.
one thing I will give AtGames a ton of credit for. The fact they put glass on their ALP and on their 4KP. I remember on the initial back when they used to do Skype calls to announce like their products. And AtGames said, yeah, we're going to put glass on this. And I was like, are you sure? Like with shipping and stuff, are you confident? And they were like, yeah, we're confident. And that was a big win. And it's still one of the best things about their products.
Yeah. Do either of you have cats, guys, with the plexiglass top? Are you worried about that?
No. Sorry. I'll stay out of this for now. I have cats.
No, I don't.
I do.
Okay.
I have three of them. God help me.
Are you concerned about that with Atlas?
None of them have shown any interest in jumping around on it or whatever. Okay. I'm sure the kittens, once they jump up somewhere and start seeing the ball flying around, especially Ray, because he's the nut of the group, I'm sure he's going to go after, want to go after the ball. But I do. Are you finished, Brian? Are you good?
Well, I was going to say that Fat Hog says something.
Thank you.
In the chat. It attracts hair.
Yes,
and it really does. Anytime you pull that glass off, hair is going to automatically just magnetic.
I hadn't even thought of that. Wow, it's a good.
So like, I got a microfiber towel and a glass cleaner like ready to go. Anytime I take it off, I'm spraying it, cleaning it forwards and backwards. And then another thing that I absolutely hate, that guy.
Yeah, right there.
A lot of talk about the lock bar.
I've already peeled my artwork on the side, just trying to put it back on.
Oh no!
And I glued it back down, but still, like, just that edge is sharp enough to.
Yeah. Why did they not include a screw for right there? Like, I'm fascinated by that.
I have
probably because you're going to have to take it apart so often that they want to make easy access. I'm just kidding. That's wrong. I shouldn't say that.
Well, the part I want to bring up about that, I love this, and it's something that I'm very interested in. If I get one, I would like to get a sheet of glass cut for the over the play field. But what concerns me about it is that lockdown bar is there partially to kind of prevent the glass or the playfield glass from coming out. So if it's not secured,
no, and that's the thing. Like, you really need to loosen the screws on the side to get that plexiglass out. You will scratch the hell out of it if you try to pull it without loosening the screws. What I ultimately did was I loosened it to the point where they were flopping in the wind, for lack of a better term. They so loose that it didn't bind, and it would. I mean, I saw Dandy's post about him busting a corner off, when he was sliding his plexi in. So, you got to take care. You got to.
He cracked it.
Yeah, you can't force it in. You got to loosen it up to the point where it slides nice and easy. Now, one of the things with that lock bar is they should have went the way of what AtGames did, where it screws in the front. And I have to figure that the only reason why they didn't screw it down was because they couldn't figure out a way to either countersink it or, to the point of opening it up and cleaning it. Because, let's face it, and shout out to Fat Hog here, because he's like our SME, our subject matter expert of this new venture that we're all jumping into here. Alcohol the pinballs when you clean them, open the machine up, clean the playfield once a month. It's gonna be a dust magnet. Your plexiglass is gonna collect hair. It's staticky as hell. But moving around with the machine here, I mean, $1,000 for a legit pinball experience. Code needs work, 100%. UI clunky. The rubbers on the bats are they're glorified rubber bands. But holy cow, the modding potential for this thing, right? Yeah. I mean, you look at D Love's group that he set up, all these guys that are modding it already. The watches and the keys and the trees and touching up the plunger and all the stuff that these guys are doing. Amazing.
Without a code update, who cares if it's better looking?
Well, but that's the thing, and as I said in my review, there are people that don't pick up a machine for a year plus to let the code bake in. And I agree with you 100%. Simplistic. And even with my Swiss cheese, I can't remember stuff. Brain, it's great to flip on. Granted, for somebody like you, Troy, yeah, simplistic. It's boring. It's it's not for me. But my wife and my kid, they flip a switch, they roll up to it, and they play. And that's
calling me an elitist.
Yeah, a little
absolutely,
bit. Well,
absolutely not. But you're a real
insulted.
but you're a real pinball player, right? I mean, you talk about the code, and you talk about the complexity, and you like a deep rule set. I'm a guy that walks up to just play. There's different kinds of people in the world. You're that. I want the rule set. I want a deep, complex game, and I want to be able to figure out the spots that I need to hit to rack up those points to get that multi-ball, and I just want to play. My wife just wants to play.
So
in other words,
go ahead, Brian, and then I
was just going to say, in other words, Troy, do you prefer an EM Plus table, or do you prefer something like high speed, too?
Oh, no question. And I think Billy Woods actually equated this to be like an EM Plus table. I think maybe you guys were both saying
EM Plus table.
And I find a lot of people, when I do the reviews on these, I have to take that into consideration that I am better than probably a good group of people on pinball. So
there's
I know. I have to say that though, because
fucking snob.
I know, right? I know. I've never thought of myself as that until recently, when my scores are actually improving to a point.
I'm on the backlash. Look at me.
I'm no Med Ben Han, but I need something more than an EM Plus, but I can still jump in that table and play the heck out of it and have a lot of fun without having to get all these additional code sets and rule sets to it too. So, but I do have to consider that a lot of people just want to walk. This is perfect. When you say kids and women, the wives will play this.
Easy. Yes.
That's what I want. We need to get more people involved in playing this stuff. That's a perfect venue for that.
So really quickly, I got to jump back for a couple of things here. Really quickly, Mad Ben, we're going to get to that in a second, but Mad Ben is one of the things that I forgot to mention this when we were clearing up the AtGames thing. Even if Zen Studios is gone for me, I'm kind of okay. I mean, there's enough of what I want from Zen Studios there that I'm never going to get bored with what I got. All I really need is I get the 2 Elvira tables. I got Attack from Mars, Medieval Madness. I can list off 9 tables that I will never grow weary with, but not everybody has the same skill level as a Mad Ben, as a Troy, that are going to complete the game and then I'm done. I want something else to play. You know what I mean? Some people will only get one pinball game and then never finish it. So there is no boredom. They're just constantly trying to do that. So you got to take that into consideration. Different skill levels will get different levels of enjoyment out of things. And we're kind of in that conversation here now on Wonderland, that this might not necessarily be for you, Troy, because you'd be able to flip the game in a day. Other people are still trying to figure everything out, right? After owning it for a month. And that's the difference. Mad Ben asked, if you already have full real size pin, why would you want a 3/4 scale table? Originally, that's the way I was looking at this. I was like, I already have real pins. I think this is a great piece for somebody that's probably never going to get a real pin. And Brian, you made a great comment during your video yesterday. It was like a heart-touching comment where you said, I'll probably never have a real pin, so this is amazing for me to have. But there's that curiosity, and there's also the level of pinball, no matter what level it is still fun. I used to shit on the Zen Stern pinball home tables until I played the Star Wars one at my local Costco, and I was like, I'm having a bunch of fun with this. This is something I would still be interested in buying. That's the matter. It doesn't matter the level or the build or the quality. If it's fun, it's fun. I'm still interested, right? So I would say that going back to Alice Goes to Wonderland, what I'm really excited about is the options. I talked about it just a couple of years ago. All we had was AtGames. All of a sudden, we got this Pinball FX VR for the people that don't have room for a full-size unit in their home, get a really good pinball experience. If they get a little bit more, they can have the X-Arcade. What am I missing here? Is MG back?
No.
Everybody
Nope,
just started laughing.
They're just having fun with Troy.
Busting his balls for being
The elitist that he
right?
is.
The elitist.
I'm not great at pinball. I'm just not terrible.
I'm
That's
just one of the
only
best.
difference.
I'm just one of the best, he says.
You're the best.
Ah,
I just like.
this is why I don't go on other
banging the
people's
balls
shows. I gotta stop. This is never gonna happen again.
Yeah, we're never gonna get invites on his show now. We're screwed.
That was yeah. Okay.
He's like, yep. You know what? Pinball post solo. We're done.
Well, I'll talk about this. One of the cool things about Wonderland is Nooner says, I'm afraid it'll be a gateway drug. B. Kong brought this up too. And he said, if you are considering ever getting your own pinball machine, there's maintenance, there's different things about taking care of it, other things like that. Not necessarily a gateway drug, but it's also a great learning tool because you're going to learn about, oh, what do I have to do with this? What do I have to do with that? So it's almost like a preparation thing. You'll know that things break down. Is that indicative of how much work is going to be on a real pin? So there's so many good things about this machine, and mostly the fact that it's $1,000 or $1,100, $1,200 now, that you can have real pinball in your home as something else that, you know, sits perfectly right next to that 4KP, is a perfect complement to that, is a perfect complement to Pinball FX VR. I'm just really excited that if you're a fan of pinball, there's so many low cost home arcade options right now we can all enjoy.
Yeah,
exactly. And with this too, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just gonna say, Billy, when you were building your machine, when you looked underneath the playfield and saw all those wires, the PCBs, like, what was your initial thought? Because to me, I was floored with the technology that they threw into it, and considering how far, you know, from Chicago Pinball Expo 2024 to being in people's homes in early 2026, how far they've come. And the fact of what they were able to accomplish to create a mechanical pinball with what they've done underneath the playfield.
It was amazing to see, like, when I dropped the playfield in and I tilted that thing up, and you're looking at it and you're just kind of like, all this for $1,000.
Yeah.
Like, this is amazing. But what, you know, one of the things with this machine for the price point, this is, you know, as I said, with regard to the, you know, the fear of missing out, right? This is one of those things, like, there's things you got to think about to that point of maintenance. Are you going to want to build it? You know, remember, this thing comes flat pack. You know, to Fat Hog's point, pulling it apart, cleaning everything, monthly maintenance, things are going to break down. Perfect machine to cut your teeth on because it's $1,000, right? I mean, this is what you learn on. If you want to graduate someday to the real thing, you know, this is the perfect opportunity for something to learn on. You know, and to roll back a little bit too, what's great about this machine is it's approachable, right?
Yeah.
It's not intimidating. You just roll up to it, you turn it on, you give it a minute to boot, and you're flipping. You know, the problem with the 4K back there for my wife and you know, my daughter to a point was, it's a little complicated to turn on. You know, for me, you just, you know, turn it on, you flip through the menu, but that can be even that can be complicated. Walking up and flipping the switch on the front, don't like where the, you know, switch is positioned, but, you know, that's a moddable thing. But fact of the matter is, they can roll up, push the button, wait a minute to boot, press the start button twice, and they're off and running. And that's why this is a great machine for the home, you know. But at the end of the day, it's not for anybody. And if you have a hesitation whatsoever about pulling the trigger, don't do it. You know, keep in mind that there is going to be maintenance and things that you're going to have to work on. And if you're not mechanically inclined, that potentially is a problem for you.
Yeah. As a home arcade, you know, owner of this, if you want to learn how to ride a bike, get you some training wheels. This is your training wheels.
That's it.
You like it, take the training wheels off, go ahead, get you something a little bit more expensive and something more like something more that you would like.
Mm-hmm. You will need to repair it.
You will need to repair it. You will fall down.
Yep, it's an eventuality.
I am a little concerned about that because I bypassed this one for the idea that I would probably get a like a tomato grass. You just bought a F14 Tomcat. So System 11, you can get a high speed, you can get a really good game between $2,000 and $3,000, but they're also 40 years old, right?
Right.
So thanks, Med Ben Han. I tell you, I completely screwed the pooch on this stream. But anyway, my point is I bypassed on Alice because of all the repair issues that they were having at the expo, burning up coils and stuff. And I'm not somebody who wants to solder and things like that. So, but I want to get a P3 by the end of the year. So I'm going to be going full bore into something and spending big bucks with the idea that I'm going to have to fix this thing. But to Fat Hog's point, if you look at the bottom of this thing, and I've looked at the bottom of the Turner pinball machines too, they're pure white. They're beautifully displayed, and that thing looks so much more accessible to clean and do maintenance on and things like that. When you look at an F14 Tomcat and the underneath of that thing, it looks like something out of the 1930s. I mean, the wires are everywhere. There's no way I would want anything to do with that. So never go full bore, right?
So you're thinking about a multimorphic. You're thinking about a multimorphic. Wow.
Yeah, because I want a one thing machine that I could put four or five different modules in it and do that. I want to be able to play Final Resistance and Portal Extended and Princess Bride and Weird Al, all those games. Heist, all in one footprint. So that's kind of the direction I'm going to go. But I was really interested in TMNT. Like, I'm going to wait and not get Alice, but if TMNT is good and it has great code, I will buy that in a second.
The only thing I'm concerned about TMNT, I heard the other day, is it might have the exact same layout and playfield as Alice, that they were just going to do a... I hope that's not the case, because I think they're leaving money.
That would be dead on arrival.
Yeah,
that would be a fail.
Yeah. I hope that's not the case.
I hope that's not the case. Guys, before we do anything else, holy shit, Jason, you didn't have to do that, man. $50 super chat. Fun chat tonight and a great bunch of folks to engage with. Make sure you subscribe to all the panel. We're almost at 2 hours, so I think everybody's ready to go to bed. So I do want to finish up by giving you guys all a chance to talk about yourself. Of course, we're going to start with RetroTech X, RTX Pinball. He's better than you, and he knows it. So, anyways,
good luck getting on the leaderboards, guys.
Anyways, he's on the push right now to get to 1,000 subs. One of my
Let's
favorite people to watch for AtGames pinball coverage, himself and Brian. Guys, go check him out. RetroTech X, tell us a little bit about your channel and what you got coming up.
Well, I'm not a very good have player at all. But I do like to do tutorials and I like to talk pinball. I do have a Discord where people will get together and have all kinds of fun. My channel is exclusively pinball. I don't do arcade stuff like a lot of the other guys do. So it's very focused in that way. But yeah, we're on the run to 1,000 subs, and it's just been a great community. And I love doing this stuff. I would do it. I've been doing it for fun forever, and man, it's so much fun. So I'm so happy to do it. I'm not better than everybody else. Let's just cut the. I didn't mean to say that I was better than anybody else, but if I could,
I'm just so much better than these people.
If I could be in the top 50 on the games,
down to them while I do my reviews.
So I try to consider what other people think of the games when I do reviews as well as myself, because I'm not the only one reviewing them. I want people to see the nuts and bolts of a game and be able to make decisions for themselves. And I do try to consider that. So with the buyer's guide and stuff like that, to try to let people see stuff a little bit in context. When I started doing my channel, you couldn't find video on any of the games anywhere for the Zachariah packs. So that was my first thing, is to go through and review every single one of those suckers so people had some type of reference. So that was my focus going in. But anyway.
listen.
Your Discord is going to be lit tonight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Having a funny thing like this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Don't worry about it, Troy. And thank you so much for coming on. This has been a pleasure. I was really excited about asking you to come on and talk about this stuff tonight, because you really are like genuinely one of my favorite people to follow and watch for this stuff. So thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
Now,
I appreciate it.
Of course, we got Billy Woods Mods here. Billy, you're busy. You're not going to be doing anything, right? But you just did an awesome video on the Alice Wonderland pin. Tell us a little bit about what you do, your channel, and why people should watch you.
I got to talk about myself.
Yeah, you do.
Damn.
And no one's going to pee on your back.
Well, first, I want to, Troy, it was awesome to hang out with you. I've always wanted to do that. So it was cool to be here and hang out and actually get to talk to you. It's not to say that it wasn't awesome to talk to you, Mike, and Chaotic, but I've done that.
You're just
already.
here for Troy.
It's a big deal. Apparently, I'm Ron Burgundy.
That's it.
Yeah, shout out $5 super chat from D Kirby. RTX channels like Ron Burgundy. Hey everyone, look how great I am. Kind of a big deal as he jumps into the pool. Thank you very much for the super chat, D Kirby.
But I just did the Alice thing. And again, let me rewind. Please help Troy get to his 1,000, please. Because we'll never hear the end of it. But if anything, some of the stuff that I love to do are the mod videos. Like that control panel video that I put together took me like 4 months to do, and the video sat in like a folder for almost a year. And yes, the first 2 weeks of every month for me are brutal. But the Alice Goes to Wonderland thing, somebody had said that like that's the first review that they've seen on it. So if that's the case, cool. But hopefully it was, hopefully what I'm putting out there is educational. You guys are learning something and it's worth your time. I try to keep everything as short as possible, except for this, I guess, apparently. And I just try to keep things as short as possible because I got like zero attention span. So hopefully, like I said, you guys learned something and it's a value for your time when you check out my stuff.
You got a great channel, man. Keep it up.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely, Billy.
Appreciate that.
And don't blame yourself for this going long. I'm long-winded. This is, people know this. They're used to it by now.
Well, no, I'm just saying, me blabbing on and on and on. But,
And I'm so excited here. This is going to tie everything together with a nice ribbon. We've got my buddy Kaotic up there. He's been doing a weekly show, bi-weekly or semi-weekly show. Whenever
I'm trying to do more weekly.
But that's why I'm bringing this up. And this is the real big reason also I had you on to talk about this, was the fact that Brian does Yo Retro on Thursdays. Usually they coincide with an AtGames Legends Pinball table release. He's just recently transitioning it, trying to a weekly show where he's going to have people on. You had Fat Hog on last week, or as Corner Cake calls him, Fathog, or whatever the heck. Corner Cake
Fat Hog
on last week. And I think
he had to super chat me for me to get it right. So
I think you were eventually going to have these guys on as well. Brian, do you want to tell us about the future Yo Retro and what you're planning to do and why everybody should tune in Thursday nights at 8 to watch it?
Sure, man. So, not every week's going to have a AtGames release. So we're not always going to have a review. I'm not always going to have half a dozen there with me. So being mostly pinball channel and mostly AtGames stuff, we got a lot of heavy hitters in the VPX community as well as the AtGames pinball community. So, one of the leaders in that category, of course, is RetroTech X. And it was always my dream to always want to do a show with RetroTech X because he's so loved.
He's probably waiting for your beard to grow back in.
What's going on? Am I dying? What's going on?
No, we just want to see whether or not your head fits through the door at the end.
That's right.
Or at least your video box. So, but no, there's just so many great people in this community, and I want to help other people get better by talking about tips and tricks about certain tables on certain days or certain shows, and then also modding capabilities of different either when it comes to AtGames products or other products or even Wonderland now. That's the reason why I had Fat Hog on last week, and that show went so well that I'm like, I'm definitely going to continue doing this and having more people on. So people in the community like Mad Ben Han, I would love to pick his brain a little bit, and Soggy Bacons. There's a bunch of people in the pinball community that I would love to talk to, and just let's break down a table together and let's do your tips and tricks of reason why you're so high on the leaderboard, and just have a good time, and then discover other things that we could talk about as well during the show. So yeah.
Oh, guys, way too much love tonight. Thank you so much. We got a $5 super chat from MichaelBtheGameGenie. Am I saying that right, Troy? Not even close?
Yeah, MichaelBtheGameGenie. Yep.
MichaelBtheGameGenie.
That's how I say it, yeah.
Amazing stream, Michael B. Also, shout out to RTX's stellar hair. That's another thing I'm jealous about. His hair is so much better than mine.
I used to have stellar hair.
I know. And then you show me
like he's just so manicured. He's so manicured. It's like perfect.
It's not even trimmed. Just wait until I have it.
It looks good on camera. Looks good on camera.
Tell
you need beard oil.
And we've also got a 1999 super chat from Leon Spiegel. Love all you guys. Thank you so much, Leon.
Back at you, sir. Back at you.
And then Dennis B's comment, RTX, that's going on your next t-shirt.
If I make it to Pinball Expo this year, that's going to be on a t-shirt.
Man. Look, you got a gimmick now, RetroTech X. Don't.
Hey, I already got a gimmick. You only need one ball for greatness. That's my motto. So come on now.
Before we go, I always forget about this, but I do have to bring up the poll. So we got 191 votes in the poll. I'm going to end it now and wait for it to come up. That is a crazy poll. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating. Based on communications from Zen and At Games, do you think new games will continue for the Legend devices? Coming in at last place is yes, but only for Legends 4K. So that would be the scenario where they don't come to the HDP. Coming in second place, yes, at 19%. Coming in third place at 21% is maybe some already in progress. I hope it's more than Earthshaker if that's the case. Then coming in first, the majority of the people that voted think it's no, coming in at 47%. I hope that isn't the case. But like I mentioned earlier, I'm not as good as RetroTech X or Mad Ben Han, so I'm still having tons of fun with the games that are available. I think we got a really good list. The only one I'm really upset about, and I'm upset that it wasn't ready or prepared, where's Circus Voltaire? That's like my favorite. What the hell, man?
That's the whole reason I got it on Pinball.
That's a bummer, man.
Pinball World, or whatever you call it, on the phone. And I hate that they're discontinuing more tables for that.
I'm so happy we got Black Knight 2000 before they decided to stop, if that's the case. That was the big one to me.
Yeah.
But Circus Voltaire's right there, man. That one's going to hurt.
So good. It's so pretty, too. It's just such a pretty table. Anyways, guys, I've kept you way too long like I usually do. I want to say thank you again to all my guests for coming on. Do me a personal favor. Go subscribe to all of them if you haven't done so already. And if you're a big pinball guy, watch them instead of me. I'm just a jerk having fun. These guys know what they're doing. So thank you very much,
you'll eventually learn how to nudge.
I love the fact that like Mad Ben Han and RetroTech X will come into my stream and watch me struggle with pinball.
We try to help you, and you're like, no, I don't want to learn. I'm just gonna
I don't want to be told what to do. I want to learn how to do it myself. I'm that way. I can't help it. I don't care if I look shitty. And Amiga Cami, thank you so much for being here. Also, Amiga Cami, you got to keep giving us updates. Where is your Wonderland pin now? On its way to Australia, still in the US? Let us know. Thanks everybody for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you sometime later on. Thanks for watching Chill and Chat with Michael B. Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.
You guys killed it. You were awesome. Of course, nobody is awesome as Retrotech X. Like, I mean, we all bow down to you.
We're not worthy.
I swear to God.